Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Leanna, in case you didn't know. Today we're talking about dumb questions that buyers ask and how I answered them and why I think you should be answering them. So, first and foremost, why should you be answering the questions? You know what? I think you answer any question, any engagement with your customer is a good thing for the most part, as long as you're not rude, but it's a good thing. You answer them, it's good customer service. If you ignore a question, it not only reflects badly on you, it reflects badly on the platform. And you know what? I know that for me, it's not my job to make sure you get sales, but I think it is my job to make sure that the platform is a good, engaging, great place to buy and sell things. So I say answer all the questions. Hopefully you answer them in a pleasant manner as best you can. I don't block people that ask me dumb questions because there are no dumb questions. There's no dumb questions in my book. And yeah, you know, it might be frustrating in a couple of scenarios, but you know what? I just answer the question. It takes me less time to answer the question than it is to rant and rave or complain about it. So just answer the question. So I have got for you about 4 different scenarios that we're going to talk about. I'm going to sort of give you an insight into why a buyer may be asking that question. And I'm going to tell you what I do in those situations. All right, number 1, the question is this still available? Now on Poshmark or eBay, it seems like a really silly question because if the item is still for sale, then the item is still available. But you have to keep in mind that your buyer may not be a seller and doesn't realize that. And your buyer might be used to a different platform where the sold listings or the sold items are not deleted, like Facebook Marketplace. So Facebook Marketplace, this question of is it still available is a very normal question. So you have to think, well, maybe that's where they're coming from. So it's also a way for the buyers to gauge, if they have some experience, it's a way for them to gauge whether or not you're an active seller. So I know that on Poshmark, there is a huge issue with inactive sellers. You know, they're not answering questions. You buy something from them, they're not shipping, they're not responding. So it's a really good way just to ask a simple question to a seller to see if they're going to respond. So it's a really good idea to respond, to show the buyer that you are receptive to questions, that you are open to negotiation in a sense, that you know what, you're there, you're ready for them to buy your item. So I think it's a really good idea to answer the question just in a normal way. Yes, it's still available. Let me know if you have any questions. Or yes, it's still available. Let me know if you want to send me an offer or whatever it is you want to say. There's a really good way to deal with that. I personally believe that you should not be blocking these people. And this is actually why I wanted to do this video, because this morning I got up and saw a post in one of the Facebook groups saying, somebody asked me if my listing was available and I automatically blocked them. Well, you know, if that's what you want to do with your business, you do it. I'm not going to really say it's right or wrong. Really, more buyers for me in some ways. But you know what? It's really not that bad of a question. Why are you blocking that person? Why are you limiting yourself to certain buyers? I want buyers. I want everybody that wants to buy from me. You know, yeah, I want them easy peasy buyers, but I want them to buy from me. So I don't block for that reason. It also gives a very negative view of the platform if you're blocking everybody, if you answer questions rudely. You know, it sort of reflects on all of us as sellers. So the better seller you are, the better the platform's going to be, the more buyers are going to be more pleasant. At least that's in my book, in my way of thinking. So, is this item still available? It could be used to a different platform. And yes, you know what? Just answer the question and maybe engage your customer. It's good customer service. The next question is, this is one that I really don't love, but still, what's your lowest price? And they ask this on the listing. They don't ask it in a bundle where it's a little more private. They ask it in a listing. And it's like, they're really asking for you to send them an offer. This is what they want to know. They want to gauge where you're at with your price. So you know what? You can send them an offer. Say, okay, you know what? Engage, respond, said, I've sent you an offer. Let me know what you think. Or you know what? You could just respond saying, you know what, how about you send me an offer, we'll see where we stand, anything like that. I prefer to send them the offer, and I will still send it a little bit higher than what I'm willing to go for, because it still gives me some wiggle room. Now, hopefully you engage with that customer and you build some sort of rapport, and you can go back and forth. Preferably not on the listing. It's just not something I think needs to be common knowledge or out there in everybody's sort of view. Put the item into a bundle, message them on the listing saying, hey, listen, I sent you a message in a bundle. Check out your comments and you'll find it. That kind of thing. It keeps it a little more private, and you can negotiate a little bit better in the comments. But again, I always respond. It's like, it's not a question I love, because it's like, well, just send me an offer. You know, just, if you want to know if I'm going to take $10 on that $100 item, send me an offer. I don't know. But the whole point is to engage them, to respond and engage, because it doesn't take very much time. It might not always lead to a sale, because you know what, you might be very far apart in price, but it might lead to a sale as well. So, and it leaves the buyer thinking, okay, they heard me, they listened to me, that's good, I like that. They leave feeling at least a little bit better than just being blocked or ignored, or just sort of, there's a word for it, they're just sort of cut off. Don't cut your buyers off. Allow them to speak when they're being, you know, nice and reasonable and stuff. Unreasonable buyers, whatever, nasty people don't get that same service. But anyway. All right, the next question is, do you have this in a different size or color or whatever? This is an interesting question, because you know what, for the most part, most people, most sellers have one of items. They source out of a thrift store maybe, or even through their own closet. They don't have multiple sizes in the same item. Some people do. If they do a boutique, they may. So this isn't really a dumb question, except for the buyer could go searching for it themselves. And the answer depends on whether or not you do have a different color or a different size in that item. And you would answer that accordingly. If you do not have that size or color, I think it's still important to respond. It's still important to say, yeah, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't have it. And you know what, you could take it a step further if you really wanted to, especially if one of your PFFs has that item. You could do a really quick search and see if you can find one and say, yeah, you know what, I don't have one, but so-and-so, this closet has this color in this size if you're interested. That's going over and above, but it's something that you can think about whether or not you want to do it. Because you know what, again, you're servicing that customer, and that customer is going to leave the platform feeling really taken care of and really, really good about it. So you could do that. I haven't come across that yet. It's not something that has happened to me. I have not had that question. Other people have, but that's okay. I would hope that maybe I would try to help them find it, or at least I would leave them with a, I'm sorry, I do not have it in a different color, different size. I wish you well. I hope you find what you're looking for. Again, responding, making your customer feel heard is something really, really important in this business. The last one, and this is one that always gets people, it really frustrates sellers, and it's any question where the answer is actually in the listing. What size is this? What color is this? What are the measurements on this? Do you know where this was made? Whatever that question is, and it's in the listing, whether it's in the pictures or it's in the actual description part of the listing. I just answer the question. You know, I say, if someone says to me, hey, what's the pit to pit on this top? I will say the chest measurement is this. If you want to have any other measurements, most of them are in the listing. Take a look, something like that, just to refer them back to the listing. But I always answer the question first. I don't just say answers in the listing, because that's not fabulous customer service. To me, that is a little condescending, a little bit rude, a little bit, depending on your tone. And you have to remember you're typing this, and tone sometimes gets implied even when it's not there. So for me, I answer the question, whatever it is, and I refer them to the listing. Again, you have to remember when you're answering questions, for the most part, especially if they're just on the listing, they are public domain. Anybody can see those answers. and you want to present yourself in the most professional, nice way that you possibly can. That way other buyers will see that and go, okay, well, they didn't have that or they didn't do this, but hey, they were really nice about it. And that might be a good sort of word of mouth for you. You know, you have to remember that in this business, it's not like they can come into our store and get a vibe from us, or, you know what, decide whether or not they like where we are, or who we are. It takes a lot more research in this kind of business. That's why a lot of people, when I go searching for things to buy, I do look at when they were last active. 100% I do, because I want to make sure that the item I am buying will be shipped. Number two, if I'm still a little leery of some people, I might go to their about page, their Meet the Posh or their about, and some of the comments there will say, hey, you know what, I purchased this from you, you never shipped it, or you did this, or you did this. And a lot of people will look at that too and go, oh, that's a red flag, I'm not going to buy it from this person. So there are no real dumb questions in this world. I honestly believe that. There are questions that, you know what, maybe you're new and you don't realize that they're an everyday sort of thing that you should know, and you're allowed to ask those questions. We, as experienced sellers, sometimes forget what it's like to be new. We may forget what it's like to be a buyer, and, you know, we should really just treat everybody with respect and kindness, and I think that goes a long way in your business. Anyway, that is it for today. I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Later in the week, I will have a What Sold in March for you. Can you believe it? We're already almost through March. Tomorrow is April Fool's Day. April 2nd, we're talking, there's tariffs that may or may not be coming. Right now, as far as I know, we know very little. And just as a little add-on, if things stay as they are and the $800 de minimis stays put, then for the most part, our business is fine and dandy, because we don't sell luxury items that are going to cost over $800 for the tariffs. So we'll see what happens. That's supposed to be happening April 2nd. So if it does and I get a heads up on that, I will come back on, that is what, Wednesday? On Wednesday, just really quickly, and just update it for you. Okay? Anyway, everybody have a fantastic week, and I will have a What Sold and an update on that for you later in the week. Bye, guys.